Hey everyone, it's Bergford with Bergford Performance Systems. I hope you are well. Today I'm bringing to you the next part in our series on thriving, not just surviving, but thriving through a crisis, mental skills for challenging times. Now today's material is going to be broadly applicable, so it doesn't matter who you are, what circumstance or circumstances you find yourself in and surrounded by, wherever you're at, I think you're going to get enormous value and insight out of what we go through today. My caveat to that is you don't just want to let this kind of circulate in your head and become this intellectual massage, if you will, where you think like, yeah, that was a good idea and that was pretty insightful. No, I'd really encourage you to set your sights higher and to drive this deeper. And in order to do that, it doesn't require a ton of time and effort, but it does require some. And I recognize that some of you are watching this on video, while others of you are maybe listening to the MP3 version while you're on the run. You could be driving around, just doing different things, and you can't really stop what you're doing right now, and that's totally fine. These are things that are pretty easy to remember. You can also go back and review this if there's any part that you feel like you'd like to revisit. So without further ado, the third element I'm going to give you today, because there's three themes. The last one is actually a mental exercise that if you found yourself maybe ruminating over some of the same questions that you just keep asking yourself, they're pretty persistent, and you haven't found great answers to that yet, I want to help you get powerful answers to that, powerful insights, and I believe we're going to do that. So make sure you walk through this entire video. I'm excited about that endpoint as well. But the first theme is to stay open. Stay open. We are going through this pandemic, and we've all heard about, especially with closing down large swaths of the economy, we've got to keep our essential services open. My question to you is, what are your essential services or the core areas of your life? I want you to list these areas out. What are the central areas of focus that you feel like if I'm growing and I'm making some progress here and I'm filling myself up in this area, I show up as a better version of myself consistently. So for some of you, examples might be health and fitness and nutrition. It could be finances. That's a big one right now. Personal relationships. How about that? Might even be your spiritual walk. Whatever it is, I want you to list out those core areas. And next, I want you to list out all the different ways that you can really fill yourself up in those places. The key word here is alternatives. Coming up with alternatives, because I don't know about you, but I have found that a lot of what I had access to just a month ago is just not there right now. You know, I used to go to the gym all the time and there's all the equipment that I ever needed, and now I am figuring out how to work out in my basement with basically next to no exercise equipment, and it's very foreign to me. But what I want you to do is, be creative with it. You discover so many things when you start to not get bogged down in what you don't have and what used to be the case and what you don't have anymore, and the discouragement, and that can just become a downward spiral. I think we've all experienced that. When you list out creative alternatives and ways that you can fill yourself up, you put yourself on a path to taking decisive action and really positioning yourself to do the best that you can and to truly say, I gave it my very best as I was going through that time, and I didn't just stop and stall out and throw up my hands and say I can't do anything. No, let's list out some alternatives. Again, don't get hung up on what you used to have available to you. Let's look at what we have in front of us right now, and I think you're going to find some amazing things that you would have never thought of before. I know I have done some exercises that never even occurred to me prior to this whole lovely crisis. All right, that leads really well into the next point, which is break free and breakthrough. Now, we can all get trapped by habits. Even good habits, and especially when we are experiencing good times, when things are kind of rolling along and everything's sort of working. But it is very possible to get into a rut. Even with good habits, we can sometimes miss out on things that are even greater and would give us more strength and insight and power and confidence and joy just because we're in a rut. and we don't have the creativity. So I think you can see how those things fit together, and embrace the opportunities that all this disruption has unearthed. But in order to embrace those opportunities, you have to be open. You have to keep your eyes open. You have to be willing to look for it and identify it, and then take hold of those things as they come up. So for example, a question that I would encourage you maybe to reconsider, if you've been asking some derivation of this, is how can I change everything in my life? And it's not that. It's really, what new standards can I set for myself today that will change everything? If you raise your standards, even in like one small aspect of your life, but in one of those core areas, where could you raise a standard that would actually change a lot of things for you? That's a question for you to ask yourself. Sit there, journal out some answers, whatever comes to mind, and then ask yourself, wow, could I put this into practice right away? And what would that mean for my life? And then the last theme here is embodying the future you. And this is the point I talked at the outset about, that I'm really excited this exercise and taking you through, and I'm going to explain that for you so you know exactly how to do it. The crux of it is, I want you to mentally project yourself past the pandemic to where you've come out the other side and you're not in a place where you're unresourceful and stressed out and just kind of freaked by everything that's going on. Project yourself past that to a place where you feel like you've got your center again. You've really got your center, and you're in a very, very good place, and you've come through all of it. And then what I want you to do is look back from that confident and secure place. That you, that future you, I want you to embody that person. So you're going to probably need to sit down and journal, but I want the current you to ask the future you to give you advice about what they learned going through all of this. And then get ready to take notes, because then you've got to shift over and kind of put yourself in the seat of the future you. And maybe some of the questions that you'd want to ask that future self is, what did you do really well that allowed you to thrive despite the difficult circumstances that you faced? And then listen. And journal and journal and journal. I think this is, by the way, is going to work best if you set aside some time, if you take some time and get away from distractions to the extent humanly possible, whether that's like going to a park where you're away from other people and too many things going on, or just finding a quiet room in the house during a quiet time of day to take this seriously and go through that question, as well as maybe asking that person, what are the greatest lessons that you learned? And then let come forth whatever comes forth, and be ready to take notes like crazy. Next question, what kind of mindset did you adopt that eventually elevated you above the masses? It's a great question. Next question, what could you have done even better to come through the situation more powerfully? Even though you did a great job and you came through it well, what could you have done even better to come through in a stronger way? And the last question I wrote down here is, what are you most grateful for? Having gone through all of it and being on the other side and being in a confident, secure place, what are you most grateful for that you experience? Now, these are just some examples, guys. So you take the bull by the horn to kind of run with this and ask whatever questions that, again, have been kind of circulating upstairs. And I think you're going to find tremendous, powerful insights. So take the time, sit down, go through that, ask the questions that have been on your heart and mind. And I'd love to hear back from some of you, the things that you learned, the things that maybe potentially set you free in some areas, the standards that you raise, and then really identifying those core areas of your life and the alternatives to make sure that you are in a strong, stable, and balanced place as you're walking through this. I hope that helps a ton, guys. Have an awesome day. I'll be back with you soon.